What about the idea that if we were to leave the EU, we'd have no influence at all over the way EU policies develop?
Well, if we've left it, yes, we won't have any say in it. But quite frankly, our say in it at the moment is limited. If you take the percentage of MEPs in the European Parliament, it's around about 8%. So all the fuss at the European elections to elect MEPs, they have a total say of 8% in the Parliament. The Council of Ministers, where a lot of the major decisions are made, again, our percentage of the vote there is 8-9%. So it's not a great percentage vote anyway. If we're outside it, then okay, we're not influencing it as a voting member, but fine. That is more than counterbalanced by our bigger say in international affairs. We're a global trading nation, and we shouldn't be constrained by what the other 82% are basically telling us to do.
To move on a little bit, something that a lot of Eurosceptics argue, not necessarily you, is that immigration is a big question. What do you think about the immigration debate in this context?
It is a concern. It's a matter of putting it in perspective. The United Kingdom is an island. It has had influence from immigration all its life, for thousands of years. I say Anglo-Saxons come from abroad, don't they? A lot of people get very worked up about the loss of control of our borders, and that is something I do understand. I think the figures are exaggerated. It is something that needs to be looked at, but all these things do tend to find their own level, and you've got to be very careful about vested interests using the statistics to sort of paint a political picture. One of the disadvantages of what I'm advocating with the Norway Option is that the freedom of movement of people, capital and goods is a right under the European Economic Area. So strictly speaking, it's not an EU issue, it's an EEA issue. And by leaving the EU but retaining membership of the EEA, that problem, if it exists, is still there. But it is people get worked up about it. I am more concerned about the political construct that is the European Union, and the fact that if we stay a member of the European Union, we will be a member of the United States of Europe. That is wholly bad for Britain. The damage that does to our democracy is vast. That's the issue, basically. And I know the UK Independence Party are very concerned about immigration. Frankly, I think they're becoming more of an immigration party than an anti-EU party. It's a matter of looking at these things in perspective. But what is the greater issue is the decisions that are made in Brussels and Strasbourg, which we have, in actual fact, very little input to.
And beyond the business side of the question, do you not think there are social and political benefits of staying within the EU?
Well, it's like anything else, that when you are looking at the governance of any country, you can take the best of ideas from across the world. I know people that have looked at policing in the United States and in the other English-speaking parts of the world and taken some ideas from various different countries. You can do that. There is no reason why, as an independent state, we can't have negotiations and treaties about all sorts of issues. It's the fact that it is forced upon us. That's the issue. The system of law in continental Europe is actually quite fundamentally different. They work under a system of Napoleonic code. In other words, you can do anything so long as the law allows you to do it. The traditional system in the United Kingdom is basically you can do anything so long as the law says you can't. Quite the reverse. So having laws imposed of which we have very little input to is the problem. Whereas if, as an independent nation like Norway, they can decide what they're going to do with their wealth, and they're a wealthy country, they've got oil, which is a vast income producer for them, and they work out how to deal with it. In the film I made, we interview an independent farmer who's a member of the National Union of Farmers, and he basically makes the point that his farm almost certainly wouldn't exist under the Common Agricultural Policy if it applied to Norway. So, there's an example. It would be an imposed system of farming of which would be incompatible to him as a small family farmer. He'll be out of business because it's imposed. And that's what we're talking about. It's imposed regulation, imposed ways of doing things.
Just to conclude, with the European elections coming up, What do you think that MEPs should be pushing for in relation to the UK's relationship with the EU?
Yeah, what MEPs should be pushing for is basically promoting small business. Small business provides most of the jobs throughout Europe. If small business is left to grow, and I do stress left to grow because one of the things that government can do is interfere too much, the EU is pro-corporate business. It's geared up to deal with corporate business. Corporate business actually likes the EU because it's big and it means a big market and everything about it happens on a large scale. Small businesses get left out, and in fact they are suffocated. So it's an emphasis on small is beautiful.